They built a world for you before you even had the words to question it. A world where silence is feared, discomfort is sedated, and purpose is traded for momentary highs wrapped in digital lights and hollow applause. From the moment you could feel shame, they taught you to soothe it, not to understand it, not to face it, just to bury it under food, validation, entertainment, sex, noise, distraction, more. And you wonder why your soul feels bankrupt in a world of endless options. They didn't need chains. They only needed algorithms. They didn't need prisons. They only needed your willingness to escape every moment that felt real. Because real moments hurt. Real moments expose the cracks in your identity. They reveal the gaping void left behind by a life designed around pleasure, not purpose. You were born into a pleasure economy where the currency is attention and the product is your obedience, where the highest virtue isn't wisdom or courage, but dopamine. Quick, easy, repeatable spikes of gratification that never ask for your growth, only your surrender. This is the first betrayal of the self. When your mind is programmed to chase only what feels good, you will run from the very things that could set you free. Discipline will feel like oppression. Stillness will feel like death. Truth will sound like an attack. And so you become what Jung called a puppet of the unconscious, a machine driven by appetites you mistake for choices. Your yes is a reflex. Your no is shame. And your silence is always interrupted by something louder than your own mind. This isn't just a crisis of distraction. It's a crisis of meaning. Pleasure was never meant to lead. It was meant to follow. But they flipped the script. They built a modern Colosseum, not with stones, but with screens. Not with lions, but with likes. And every day you are fed to the mob of your own impulses, cheered on by systems that profit from your dissent. The more you seek pleasure, the less tolerance you have for reality, and reality is where your purpose lives. Reality is not polite. It doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't shape itself to fit your narratives. It stands like a silent mountain, waiting to be climbed, not consumed. The real youth, the powerful you lives on the other side of everything you avoid, on the other side of the boredom you can't sit with, the insecurity you hide behind filters, the rage you call just having a bad day, the emptiness you flood with consumption. You've been taught that happiness is the goal, but happiness is a byproduct. It's the consequence of a life aligned, not the target of a life wasted. Ask yourself, why are you exhausted? It's not the tasks. It's not the people. It's the internal war between your instincts and your calling. One is ancient, primal, programmed to survive. The other is eternal, sacred, designed to transcend. And you've been feeding the wrong one. The instinct says, avoid pain. The calling says, walk through it. The instinct says, seek validation. The calling says, become undeniable. The instinct says, fit in. The calling says, stand apart. You were never meant to be comfortable all the time. Comfort isn't peace, it's sedation. It's the slow death of the soul in a room painted with soft colors and padded lies, because comfort kills more dreams than fear ever will. This is the tragedy of the modern mind. It has more access than ever before and less depth than ever imagined. We drown in data, yet starve for wisdom. We celebrate ease, yet decay in meaninglessness. We touch 1,000 lives online, yet never truly connect with the one that matters, our own. The modern individual is not suffering from lack of opportunity. He is suffering from lack of inner architecture. No spine, no center, no source of strength that doesn't come from a substance, a screen, or a stranger's approval. You chase more, but you feel less. You achieve more, but you become less. Because every time you trade purpose for pleasure, you reinforce the lie that your life should always feel good and not that it should be good. There's a difference. To be good is to be aligned, to live according to an inner code that does not bend to trends or comfort. a life that carves character out of hardship, that turns loneliness into self-respect, that doesn't crumble when pleasure is gone. Ask the Stoics, ask the mystics, ask the warriors of old. The path is narrow and it is steep because you are not here to consume. You are here to become. You are not a brand. You are not a product. You are not a shell decorated with desires. You are a fire. And that fire must be stoked not with pleasure, but with purpose. You think you are unhappy because you lack success. You are unhappy because you lack direction. You think you are anxious because the world is chaotic. You are anxious because you refuse to be still long enough to find your anchor. There is a war being waged not on your body, but on your attention, because attention is the gateway to consciousness. And if they can own your attention, they own your choices, your future, your fate. So understand this clearly. Every moment you reach for your phone without awareness, you weaken the muscle of presence. Every time you say yes to a comfort that you didn't earn, you surrender your sovereignty. Every time you escape the void instead of facing it, you delay your becoming. This is not moral judgment. This is spiritual mechanics. The machine wants you to be predictable. Purpose makes you unpredictable. The machine wants you reactive. Purpose makes you composed. The machine wants you needy. Purpose makes you whole. You do not need more stimulation. You need more silence. You need time with the parts of you that are ugly, raw, unfiltered, because they hold the blueprints to your transformation. The greatest act of rebellion in today's world is not protest, it's not noise, it's not a clever caption. It is deep, deliberate, inner work. It is waking up every day with the audacity to not be seduced by what's easy. It is living by values that make you a threat to the algorithm. It is creating in a culture of consumption, leading in a time of conformity, thinking in a time of mimicry. Your purpose is not found in what feels good, it is found in what feels true. And the truth will shake you, break you, burn away the parts of you that were never real to begin with. But what remains will be unshakable, because that is the path of individuation, as Jung called it. Not the path of popularity, not the path of pleasure, but the path of wholeness. A life where your soul is not outsourced. A life where your fire is not borrowed. A life where every breath is a conscious act of becoming. Not perfect, but purposeful. Not painless, but powerful. You were not built for sedation. You were built for ascension. And the climb is not glamorous. It is not aesthetic. It is not shareable in 20-second clips. It is blood and dust and the silence of being misunderstood. It is your ego screaming as your soul dismantles every false idol you built just to be liked. It is not the applause you seek, but the alignment you earn. And the world will not celebrate you for this. It will mock you, because you threaten its economy of escape. You make people uncomfortable, not because you preach, but because your presence alone is a mirror. And when people have built their identities on illusions, truth feels violent. You walking in purpose is not safe for them. It exposes the fragility of their masks. But you were not born to keep people comfortable. You were born to remember who you are. Beneath the roles, beneath the labels, beneath the digital persona, you curated to survive in a marketplace of attention. You were born to remember that your soul is not a trend. Your values are not negotiable. Your time is not infinite. And your gift, whatever it is, was never meant to be buried under comfort. The world doesn't need more influencers. It needs more initiates. More men and women who are willing to be forged in fire, who are willing to go where others refuse to go into the abyss of their own psyche. Because that's where the gold is. Not in the next app, not in the next relationship, not in the next external high, The gold is in the shadows you've been taught to ignore, the ones that hold your wounds, your fears, your forgotten dreams. Jung knew this. He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That's the work. The modern mind wants only light, only ease, only affirmation. But the soul grows through contrast, through tension, through the sacred friction between who you are and who you pretend to be. And unless you learn to hold that tension, to stay in the heat long enough to transform you, will keep resetting your life back to zero, wondering why nothing sticks. Wondering why every breakthrough fades into another breakdown. It's not because you're broken. It's because you've been conditioned to abort the process every time it hurts. But pain is not punishment. Pain is the doorway. And the more you run from it, the more you run from yourself. You've been programmed to chase the sensation of change, not the substance. To download hacks, to binge motivation, to scroll through other people's lives for inspiration, while your own withers in neglect. But here's the truth no one tells you. Real change is not sexy. It is not loud. It does not come with music and filters. It comes when you face yourself in the quiet moments when no one is watching and decide again and again that you are done betraying yourself. That is when the alchemy begins. When you no longer need the world to change before you do. When your standard becomes internal. When your choices are no longer dictated by urges, but by principles. That is when you become dangerous. Because a person with purpose cannot be bought. They cannot be manipulated with pleasure. They cannot be tamed by trends or opinions or fear. They are rooted. They are clear. And that kind of clarity radiates. It cuts through the noise like a blade. It rearranges rooms. It invites others to remember who they are too. You don't need a new life. You need a new relationship with discomfort. You need to stop worshiping ease like it's the goal and start understanding that the obstacles are the path, the delays, the heartbreak, the rejection. These are not signs that you're cursed. These are the rites of passage, the initiation into your own power, into your own depth, into the version of you that cannot be seduced by shortcuts anymore. Because shortcuts steal the one thing you cannot replace: character. And without character, you will keep cycling through identities, always searching, never arriving. But once you choose purpose over pleasure, everything changes. Not instantly, not magically, but irrevocably. Because now you are governed by something deeper, something eternal, something that does not fade with applause or crumble in isolation. Purpose is not a feeling, it is a vow. A promise you make to yourself when the world is too loud and the path is unclear, but you keep walking anyway. This is where true strength lives. Not in domination, but in devotion. Not in ego, but in essence. The kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. It just moves. It just builds. It just becomes, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day, until one day you look back and realize you are no longer the same. You are no longer chasing. You are walking. You are grounded. You are whole. And in that wholeness, you don't need permission anymore. You don't need consensus. You don't need the world to understand you. You just need to remember who you are and act accordingly. You are not here to be liked. You're here to be light. You're not here to fit in. You're here to carve space. You're not here to feel good all the time. You're here to grow, to rise, to burn away the layers of illusion and emerge as something real. And that is the most terrifying, liberating thing you can ever do, to stop chasing pleasure and start living on purpose. Because when you stop chasing pleasure, the illusions begin to collapse. All the artificial highs, the empty validations, the shallow victories, they reveal themselves for what they truly are: distractions. Not gifts, not goals, not signs of success, just noise. Noise that numbs you into complacency while your potential rots in the basement of your being, waiting to be noticed. You begin to see it everywhere, how people trade their entire lives for the next rush. They dress it up as ambition, but it's desperation. They call it freedom, but they're slaves to convenience. Their calendars are full, but their spirits are empty. You begin to see how pleasure has been weaponized to keep you docile, addicted, dependent, because a distracted mind is a controllable mind. A sedated man does not rebel. A comfort-addicted woman does not awaken. And so the system feeds you comfort, ease. Escape is not because it cares for you, but because it fears you. It fears what you could become if you ever stopped running, if you ever sat in the silence long enough to remember the roar that lives beneath your conditioned thoughts. That roar is your Suland. It has been buried under decades of programming designed to make you forget. Forget that you are sacred. Forget that you are powerful. Forget that you were never meant to play small. The moment you stop chasing pleasure, that roar returns. At first, it's uncomfortable, foreign, almost frightening, because it doesn't sound like the world. It doesn't speak in likes or notifications or seductive promises. It speaks in truth raw, unfiltered, ancient. It speaks in intuition, in instincts, in visions. It does not flatter you. It demands you to show up, to grow up, to stop waiting for clarity and start creating it. This is when the path of purpose truly begins. When you realize the mountain was never outside of you, it was inside. And climbing it means confronting every part of yourself you were told to avoid. The anger, the shame, the grief, the doubt, the wildness, the hunger, the power. You are not meant to suppress these. You are meant to integrate them, to pull them out of the shadows and into the light, not to judge, but to understand, not to fight, but to transmute, because the parts of you that scare you the most are often the very keys to your liberation. You do not need to become someone new. You need to remember someone ancient. The one who existed before you were tamed, before you were medicated with entertainment, before you were taught that pleasure was the prize and pain was the enemy. No, pain is a doorway. Pain is the proof that you are still alive, still capable of feeling, still in possession of your humanity. In a numb world, to feel is to rebel. In a fake world, to be real is to fight. And in a world obsessed with comfort, to walk in purpose is to be at war with mediocrity. You must choose your suffering, either the suffering of growth or the suffering of regret. There is no third path, no neutral ground. Either you will face the pain of becoming or drown in the pain of avoiding. And the avoidance always costs more. Every time you choose the easy way out, you pay in self-respect. Every time you numb instead of face, you lose a piece of your potential. Every time you chase pleasure at the expense of purpose, you shrink. You begin to feel like a stranger to yourself, like a shadow walking through life, reacting to everything, connected to nothing. But the moment you flip the script, when you stop asking, what will feel good right now, and start asking, what will serve me deeply, you begin to reclaim yourself. You begin to understand the sacred difference between gratification and fulfillment. One fades, the other builds. One depletes, the other fortifies. One keeps you asleep, the other forces you awake. And awakening is not always beautiful. It is raw, it is humbling. It is the violent shedding of every illusion you once called truth. It is the death of your former self and the birth of someone the world doesn't know yet, but your soul remembers. That's what this journey is. A return to the origin, a descent into the unconscious, a confrontation with the chaos you've spent your life avoiding. And from that confrontation, something sacred emerges. Clarity. Not the kind you find in a book, the kind you feel in your bones, the kind that cannot be shaken by circumstances or opinions. The kind that makes you walk different, speak different, think different, because now you're not living for sensation, you're living for legacy. You're not moved by the temporary. You're moved by the timeless. You no longer ask, how can I get more? You ask, what can I give? What can I build? What can I stand for in a world that has forgotten how to stand for anything at all? You were not put here to chase comfort. You were put here to embody conviction, to become a lighthouse in a sea of chaos, to be the one who remembers when everyone else forgets. That's the path of purpose. That's what awaits you on the other side of pleasure. And no, it will not be easy. It will not always feel good, but it will be real. And in a world this lost, that's more than enough. So now you stand at the threshold between the life they built for you and the life you were born to create, between sedation and sovereignty, between the temporary high of fitting in and the eternal fire of finally showing up as who you are. And make no mistake, this isn't just about you. This is about every person you will inspire by refusing to abandon yourself one more time. This is about every silent soul watching you in secret, waiting for proof that it's still possible to live with power, with vision, with integrity. They are watching not what you say, but how you move. Not what you claim, but what you commit to when no one is clapping. You've been programmed to chase pleasure, but now you know. You know that pleasure without purpose is poison. You know that ease without depth is emptiness. You know that validation without truth is slavery. And now you know you have a choice. Not an easy one, but a sacred one. Because from this moment on, every time you are tempted to reach for distraction, you can choose discipline. Every time you want to numb, you can choose awareness. Every time the old voice says, escape, you can respond, no, I rise. And as you rise, the world around you begins to shift. Because the highest form of rebellion is not destruction, it is devotion. Devotion to your soul's deepest calling. Devotion to a path that terrifies your ego but awakens your spirit. Devotion to becoming the kind of human this world desperately needs but rarely sees. This is not a trend. This is not a phase. This is a reckoning, a returning, a resurrection of the self the system tried to sedate. You were not built to kneel to comfort. You were built to walk through fire and not be consumed. You were not designed to be another cog in their pleasure machine. You were meant to be a force, unapologetic, unshakable, unmistakably alive. So walk forward now, not with arrogance, but with authority, not with noise, but with knowing, not with a need to impress, but with a power to impact. Let the world chase the next thrill. Let them scroll, escape, repeat. You've remembered something they've forgotten, that a life lived on purpose is the greatest revolution of all. Go live it.